Some photos aren't just unsettling. They get under your skin. They linger in your mind long after you've looked away, making you question what you just saw. Were your eyes playing tricks on you? Or was there something, well, more? From ghostly figures in the background to eerie coincidences frozen in time, these images carry chilling stories that are as haunting as the photos themselves. No filters, no special effects, just real, unexplained moments that will leave you with an eerie feeling you can't shake. If you think you can handle it, keep watching, because once you see these 15 creepy photos, you won't be able to unsee them. Let's start off this list with Number 15. The Victorian tradition of postmortem photography. In an era when photography was a luxury, death often became the first and only reason for a family portrait. During the Victorian period, postmortem photography, or memento mori, which basically means remember you must die, became a common practice. Families would dress their deceased loved ones in their finest clothes, carefully posing them as if they were still alive. Some photos are subtle, with the dead resting peacefully in beds or cradled in a parent's arms. Others are unsettling, propped upright, glassy-eyed, their lifeless gaze blending into a family of the living. Artists sometimes painted open eyes onto the images, making the effect even more eerie. For grieving families, these portraits were a final connection to the departed, a way to preserve their memory forever. But to modern eyes, they are haunting reminders of mortality, frozen moments where the dead appear to stare back. Well, this pic was scary, if not creepy. Number 14. The Shadow Left Behind, Hiroshima's Ghostly Imprint. On August 6, 1945, time stopped for Hiroshima. The atomic bomb detonated with such intensity that it vaporized people instantly, leaving behind eerie shadows, the only physical proof they had existed at all. One of the most haunting images from the aftermath, human shadow etched in stone, captures the final moment of a man sitting on a flight of stairs outside the Sumitomo Bank. He was just 800 feet from the explosion's epicenter. In an instant, his body was gone, reduced to nothing but a silhouette burned into the stone behind him. These death shadows formed when the bomb's intense heat bleached surrounding surfaces, except where people had shielded them with their bodies. Over time, these grim imprints faded, but the horror they represent remains. They are permanent echoes of lives erased in a flash, ghostly reminders of one of history's most devastating moments, the kind of horror no haunting could ever match. Number 13. Doom Towns. Not all ghost towns are abandoned. Some were designed to die. In the 1950s, the U.S. government created eerie replicas of small-town America in the Nevada desert. These doom towns weren't meant for people, but for destruction. Designed to simulate a real suburban neighborhood, the towns were complete with fully furnished homes, grocery stores, parked cars, and mannequins posed as if living an ordinary day. Some mannequins sat at dinner tables, others read newspapers, and a few even lounged outside. Then, the government detonated a 16-kiloton atomic bomb nearby, studying how buildings, cars, and people would fare. The aftermath was chilling. Houses turned to ash, mannequins melted or flung through windows, cars crumpled like paper. The once alive town became an apocalyptic wasteland in an instant. Though these tests were vital for military research, the haunting images left behind make you wonder. What if these weren't just mannequins? What if real towns met the same fate? Number 12. The Tortured Faces of Duchenne de Boulogne's Patients. Science and horror often overlap, and nowhere is that clearer than in the haunting images of French neurologist Duchenne de Boulogne's experiments. In the mid-1800s, he studied how facial muscles worked by applying electrical currents directly to his subjects' faces. The results? A series of photographs that look less like medical studies and more like records of pure suffering. His patients, Their faces, contorted by sudden shocks, appear to be in agony. Some wear expressions of forced laughter, others grimace in exaggerated pain. The photographs are deeply unsettling. Victims of 19th century science caught in mid-experiment, their emotions manipulated like puppets on a string. Duchenne's work was groundbreaking, helping shape our understanding of facial expressions and muscle function. But looking at these frozen faces today, one can't help but wonder, did his subjects willingly participate? Or were they mere test subjects, their discomfort captured forever in grim, ghostly portraits? Number 11. William Hope and the Ghostly Art of Spirit. In the early 1900s, photography wasn't just about capturing the living, it was about glimpsing the dead. Meet William Hope, a self-proclaimed medium and pioneer of spirit photography. Families grieving lost loved ones sought Hope's services, hoping to reconnect with those they had lost. He would photograph them, and when the pictures developed, faint ghostly figures would appear in the background. Wispy faces, transparent hands resting on shoulders, shadowy forms looming behind them. One of his most famous images shows a solemn couple with a ghostly young woman hovering behind them. Hope claimed it was a spirit, proof of the afterlife. For years, people believed his work, clinging to the idea that their loved ones still lingered. But Hope's methods were eventually exposed as fraudulent, double exposures and photographic tricks. Yet, even knowing the truth, these photos remain unsettling. Because when you stare into those ghostly faces, you still wonder, what if they aren't fake? Number 10. The Bone Chapel of Portugal. At first glance, Capela dos Ossos in Évora, Portugal, appears to be just another historic chapel. But step inside, and the walls tell a chilling story, because they are the story. This chapel is entirely constructed from human remains. Built in the 16th century by a Franciscan monk, Capela dos Ossos was meant as a stark reminder of mortality. The phrase memento mori, Latin for remember you must die, was not just a message here. It was woven into the very architecture. Nearly 5,000 human skeletons taken from overcrowded cemeteries form the walls and ceiling. 2 desiccated corpses, one of them a child, hang in chains as eerie sentinels. Some find it horrifying, others see it as a powerful reflection on life and death. Either way, Capela dos Ossos is more than a place of worship. It's a mausoleum of forgotten souls, whispering their silent message to every visitor who dares to step inside. All right, now, let's look at Number 9. The Ako de Sewa Fetish Market. In the heart of Lomé, Togo lies the Ako de Sewa Fetish Market, the largest voodoo market in the world. For outsiders, it's unsettling. Shelves lined with human skulls, dried monkey heads, parrot beaks, and armadillo skin make it look like something out of a dark fantasy. But to those who practice voodoo, it is sacred. Unlike the horror movie depictions of voodoo as sinister magic, real voodoo is a deeply spiritual religion. It teaches that all creatures, alive or dead, are divine, existing in both the visible and invisible worlds. Death isn't an end, but a transition, and talismans sold here serve as connections between these realms. Healers, shamans, and priests visit Ako de Sewa to gather materials for rituals meant to bring healing, protection, or guidance. To some, it's just another market. To believers, it's a place where the unseen world meets the physical one. And for the unprepared visitor, it's unforgettable. Number 8. Museo de las Momias. In the city of Guanajuato, Mexico, over 100 mummified bodies stare out from their glass cases, their expressions frozen in time. These aren't relics of ancient civilizations. They were ordinary people, buried in the 19th and 20th centuries. And their presence in this museum? The result of a grim tax policy. In 1865, families had to pay a grave tax to keep their loved ones buried. Those who couldn't afford it saw their relatives dug up. But due to the region's dry soil conditions, the bodies hadn't decomposed. They had mummified naturally. At first, they were stored in an ossuary beneath the cemetery, but over time, locals realized people would pay to see them. By 1958, the practice was banned, but the mummies remained. Now, they're a major attraction, their twisted, leathery faces serving as a haunting reminder of bureaucracy gone horribly wrong. Here, death wasn't the end. It was just another exhibit. What do you say about it? Let us know. Number 7. The Island of Dolls. Deep in the canals of Xochimilco, Mexico, there's an island that feels like something out of a nightmare. Hundreds of dolls, dirty, decayed, and missing limbs, hang from the trees, staring with lifeless eyes. But why? The story is even stranger than the sight itself. Local legend says Don Julian Santana, the island's caretaker, found the body of a drowned girl on its shores. Soon after, he began to feel her presence, an unseen force that haunted him. To appease her restless spirit, he started hanging dolls all over the island, believing they would protect her. He kept adding more for decades until, in a chilling twist, he was found drowned in the exact same spot where the girl had died. Now the island remains untouched, an eerie shrine to lost souls. Visitors claim the dolls move, whisper, or even open their eyes. Whether haunted or just unsettling, one thing is certain: you'll never look at dolls the same way again. Number 6. Havana's boneyard. Imagine walking through a cemetery only to find piles of bones stacked 30 feet high. That was the grim reality of Havana's Cemetery boneyard, a mass grave created not by war, but by economics. Overcrowding forced the cemetery to enact a brutal policy. After 5 years, if a family couldn't pay for their loved one's burial plot, the body was dug up and discarded. The bones were tossed into a growing boneyard, an eerie landfill of human remains. Over time, it became a bizarre tourist attraction, with visitors taking photos and even handling the bones. After the Spanish-American War, 2 American soldiers were even photographed playing with skulls, treating the site as a macabre playground. Today, the practice has ended, but the chilling images remain. It was a place where death was temporary, dignity was optional, and even the dead could be evicted. Number 5. The Challenger explosion. On January 28, 1986, the world watched in horror as the Space Shuttle Challenger disintegrated just 73 seconds after liftoff. The explosion killed all 7 crew members, including schoolteacher Krista McAuliffe, who had been chosen from over 11,000 applicants for NASA's Teacher in Space project. Meant to be an inspiring moment, the mission turned into one of the most devastating tragedies in space exploration. The disaster, caused by a failed O-ring in the shuttle's right booster, led to major changes in NASA's safety protocols. Decades later, the Challenger remains a heartbreaking reminder of both ambition and loss. It was a sad moment. Number 4. The Sleeping Dead. At first glance, this angel statue in Highgate Cemetery looks serene, a peaceful guardian over the dead. But the longer you stare, the more something feels wrong. The way it reclines, eyes closed, hands resting so gently, it looks less like a statue and more like something caught in the middle of a long, deep sleep. Or worse, something waiting. Highgate Cemetery in London is already infamous for its chilling Gothic beauty, its crumbling tombstones, and ivy-covered graves whispering of forgotten souls. Built in 1839, nearly 200,000 people have been laid to rest here, but many believe not all of them stay at rest. Ghost hunters claim the cemetery is charged with supernatural energy, home to the infamous Highgate vampire and many shadowy figures seen lurking between the graves. But this statue? It doesn't need to move to be unsettling. Because once you see it, one thought lingers in your mind long after you've walked away. What happens if it wakes up? Number 3. A quiet country home? It looks like a cozy, picture-perfect farmhouse, tucked away in upstate New York, nestled among the trees. But this house isn't homey. It's haunted by a history most people have forgotten. This is one of the 42 remaining buildings from the Trudeau Sanatorium, a facility where thousands of tuberculosis patients were sent in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Before antibiotics, TB was a slow and painful death sentence. Patients came here hoping for a cure. Most never left. This eerie 1948 photo tells the story. A nurse, dressed in white, walks up the steps, carrying supplies for the dying inside. The image is quiet. Too quiet. The peaceful setting clashes with the looming reality of death that fills these halls. Even now, abandoned sanatoriums are considered some of the most haunted places in the world. Visitors report hearing distant coughing echoing through empty rooms, shadows flickering just out of sight. The question is, are they really empty? Number 2. The San Francisco earthquake. April 18, 1906, San Francisco changed forever. At 5:12 a.m., the ground split open with a force that shook the city to its core. A 7.9 magnitude earthquake tore through the streets, toppling buildings, cracking roads, and igniting fires that would rage for days. The devastation was total. Over 3,000 people lost their lives, entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble, and smoke darkened the sky for miles. This haunting image captures the aftermath. Victorian homes on Howard Street sit in eerie silence, their frames twisted and broken. But what's even more unsettling? Many believe the dead never left. The ruins of the city became their graves, entire blocks rebuilt over the bodies of those who were never found. To this day, paranormal investigators claim to hear footsteps echoing through abandoned basements, whispers in the halls of restored buildings, and fleeting figures vanishing in the corners of old structures. Number 1. Deadly Woman. The face in this photo is haunting, not because of what she did, but because of the questions that still linger. Carla Fay Tucker was convicted of a brutal, gruesome crime. In 1983, during a drug-fueled robbery, she and an accomplice murdered 2 people with a pickaxe. No mercy, no hesitation. But her case took a bizarre turn. While on death row, Tucker publicly converted to Christianity, her charm and repentance captivating the media. She smiled in interviews, spoke of redemption, and gained supporters from all walks of life. Even the Pope himself pleaded for clemency. Some believed her transformation was real. Others saw manipulation. But Texas didn't waver. On February 3, 1998, she became the first woman executed in the state since 1863. Her last words were a tearful farewell, professing love and faith as the lethal injection took hold. Was she truly reformed, or was this just another chilling chapter in a life marked by violence? That's a question only history can answer. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.